It always starts with a sound, a specific notification chirp that makes my stomach clench. My name is Isabella Moore, and for 5 years, I've been my family's invisible infrastructure. I pay the mortgage, I pay the utilities, I pay for my brother's expensive steak dinners. I thought that's what made me part of the family. But tonight, my mother sent out the polished calligraphed seating chart for our 20-person Thanksgiving dinner. And my name isn't on it. It's not a mistake. It's a message. They just didn't realize that if you pull the pin on the infrastructure, the whole machine stops. This is the story of how I stopped. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We always appreciate the time you spent here with us. It always starts with a sound, the specific high-pitched chirp of the Moore family group chat. It's a notification sound I can't change, and it's a sound that makes my stomach clench instantly every single time. It's the first week of November. The air outside my small apartment window smells like frost and the pumpkin spice lattes from the cafe downstairs. But all I feel when I hear that chirp is a familiar cold dread. I'm Isabella Moore. I'm 28. To the shipping conglomerate I work for, I'm the logistics coordinator who makes sure 500 trucks are in the right states at the right times. I'm the one who routes freight, manages manifests, and solves 3-state pileups before the client even knows there's a problem. To my family, I'm just the infrastructure. I'm the one who makes sure the lights stay on at their suburban home, the one who makes sure the Wi-Fi doesn't drop mid-Zoom, the one who makes sure the mortgage clears on the first of the month every month. It wasn't a role I auditioned for. It was a slow, creeping assumption that calcified into an expectation. My family looks perfect from the outside. My mother, Karen, is the image-obsessed head of the neighborhood Harvest Guild, a woman whose entire identity is tied to being the perfect matriarch in their upper-middle-class enclave. My father, David, is passive and conflict-avoidant. He lost his high-paying management job 5 years ago, a fact our family never ever discusses. He works a commission-based sales job now, and in his words, he just can't keep up with the old lifestyle. He's the one who first asked me for a temporary loan for the mortgage. That was 60 months ago. And then there's my brother, Ryan, 30 years old and the golden boy. He's always working on a groundbreaking startup, a vague concept that involves a lot of coffee shop meetings and buzzwords. He dresses in expensive clothes, drives a leased Audi that I had to co-sign for, and always needs just a little seed money to get his next big deal across the line. It started 5 years ago with Dad's job loss. "Just for a few months, Bella," he'd whispered to me in the kitchen, his face gray with a shame I pitied. "Just until I get back on my feet." I had just landed my logistics job, the first good salary of my life. I stepped in. For simplicity. I said I would consolidate their main bills to my account. I was good at managing complex systems after all. Simplicity became the mortgage, a staggering $2,800 a month. Simplicity became the utilities, the family phone plan, the internet and cable bundle. And most dangerously, simplicity became the emergency credit card, the one I put my name on just in case. Simplicity became a prison. Which brings me to tonight. I'm at my small, neat desk staring at my personal budget. The spreadsheet is titled Condo Fund. I've been saving for 3 years, scraping together every extra dollar for a down payment on a small 1-bedroom place downtown, a place that would be mine. A bank alert flashes on my phone's lock screen, $450, $100. STK Steakhouse. My stomach drops. I know that charge. It's the emergency card. With shaking hands, I open Instagram. I don't even have to look hard. Ryan's story is right at the top. It's a video clinking champagne glasses, a massive tomahawk steak on a wooden board. He's with 3 friends, all of them raising their glasses. The caption, "Celebrating the next big thing," had entrepreneur life. A hot, familiar bile rises in my throat. I look back at my condo fund. That $450 was supposed to be my deposit for this month. Before I can even process the rage, my phone chirps again. That sound, The Moore family group chat. I open it. It's from my mom. A polished, perfect PDF is attached all autumn leaves and elegant script. The official seating chart for the Moore Thompson Thanksgiving harvest dinner. My heart does a stupid, hopeful little leap. Maybe this year she'll seat me next to my aunt, the one I actually like. I open the file. It's a beautiful calligraphed diagram of two large formal tables. I see Mom. I see Dad. I see Ryan and his new girlfriend Elena. I even see Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, Elena's parents. I scan the 20 names on the list. I scroll, and I scroll again. My eyes trace every single name. She even included the neighbors. My name is not there. My first reaction isn't anger. It's a cold, shaky fog. A mistake. It has to be a simple clerical error. My mom is juggling 20 things: the Harvest Guild, the catering, the perfect image. She just forgot me. I pull up our private text thread. My fingers feel thick and slow. Hey Mom, I think you missed my name on the seating chart. I hit send. I watch the status change. Delivered. Then, read. The three little dots of her typing bubble appear. They pulse for a second, 2, 3, and then vanish. Silence. A minute passes. The dots reappear. They pulse, teasing me. And they vanish again. She's editing. She's calculating her response. 10 minutes pass. An entire sitcom's length. The dots are gone. My screen is blank. This isn't a mistake. This is intentional. I hit the call button. It rings twice and she picks up. Her voice is a high-pitched, fake polite trill, a voice I haven't heard directed at me in years. It's her hostess voice. Isabella, honey, I'm right in the middle of arranging the centerpieces. What is it? The casual dismissal makes my stomach twist. Mom, I say, keeping my own voice level. I'm not on the seating chart. A heavy sigh hisses through the speaker. The fake voice cracks and drops, replaced by an icy, familiar annoyance. Isabella, please don't make this difficult. Elena's parents are coming. They're significant people, Isabella. We just don't have the space. The words are so absurd, so blatant that I almost laugh. You don't have space? I ask, my voice rising. It's a 20-person dinner. It's our house. I'm your daughter. Honestly, Isabella, she snaps, your attitude lately has been so negative. It's so draining. Ryan mentioned you were grilling him about that simple steak dinner. He's networking, Isabella. That's what successful people do. You don't understand these things, you're just a clock puncher. He is building our family's future, and you're busy in your little apartment counting pennies. We can't have that kind of jealousy at the table. Not this year, not in front of the Thompsons. I am speechless. The humiliation is a physical weight pressing the air from my lungs. She continues, her voice softening into a mask of maternal compromise. Look, we need this to be perfect. You can come for dessert. Say around 8 after Elena's parents leave. Or, she adds, as if offering a great kindness, you can apologize to Ryan for stressing him out, and I'll see if I can squeeze in a chair by the kitchen door. I can't breathe. My hand is gripping my phone so tightly my knuckles are white. Apologize. The word comes out as a croak. Apologize for what? For paying for his networking. For paying for the house you're hosting this dinner in. The line goes quiet. A cold, hard silence. You just don't get it, do you? She says, her voice dripping with genuine disappointment, as if I'm the one who has failed her. You're just not a team player, Isabella. The line clicks dead. She hung up on me. I stare at my phone, my whole body vibrating with a rage so cold, it feels like ice water in my veins. And then, as if to twist the knife, a new text message buzzes. It's from her. You're banned from Thanksgiving. Don't come at all until you apologize to your brother and fix your toxic, jealous attitude. You're an idiot if you think I'll let you ruin this for Ryan. Idiot. The word hangs in the air of my quiet apartment. Idiot. All the years of, you're so responsible, Bella. You're our rock. What would we do without you? It was all a lie. A script they read to keep the machine running. I wasn't their rock, I was their doormat, the invisible infrastructure, the fool who paid for the privilege of being insulted, and they had just wiped their feet on me for the very last time. I don't cry. I don't scream. The shaking stops, replaced by a terrifying, clarifying calm. I walk to my desk. The word idiot echoes in my ears. I open my laptop. The blue glow of the screen illuminates my cold, calm face. I open a new blank Excel workbook. I move my cursor to the file name. I type. The ledger. In logistics, you learn that a catastrophe is never one big event. It's a series of small, overlooked failures. A cracked seal, a misread, manifest a single cotter pin in a single coupling that's been rattling loose for miles. You pull that one pin, and the entire 18-wheeler, all 80,000 pounds of it, just stops. My family was an 18-wheeler barreling down the highway on my fuel, and I was about to pull every last pin. It was 2 a.m. The rage had cooled into a chilling, crystalline focus. I was fueled by black coffee and a terrifying, clarifying calm. I sat at my desk, the ledger spreadsheet open in one window and my bank's dashboard in the other. It was time. The process began. This was my work, just a different kind of logistics. First, the big one. The mortgage. $2,800 a month. I logged into my Wells Fargo bill pay. I saw the recurring payment Act Sati 7712 mortgage. I clicked Manage. Then, Cancel automatic payment. A small, polite pop-up appeared. Are you sure this may result in late fees? A cold smile touched my lips. I clicked Confirm so hard my finger ached. One pin pulled. Next, the utilities. $600 a month easy. City water and power. I navigated to the payment settings. Remove payment method. Click. Comgas. Remove payment method. Click. 2 more pins. Then the emergency credit card. Capital One. AST 9044. I saw the pending charge, $450. STK Steakhouse. I saw Ryan's gas fill-ups, his endless subscription boxes, his Uber rides. I didn't just remove the autopay. I clicked Account Services, then Report Card Lost, Stolen. I clicked Stolen. A new card would be mailed to my apartment, but it didn't matter. I followed it up. Freeze account. Click. The artery was clamped. The internet and cable bundle, the source of my mother's Harvest Guild Zoom calls, and Ryan's endless streaming. Spectrum. Bundle. $220. I didn't just remove the payment. I clicked Cancel Service. Click. The final pin. The most complex one. The family phone plan. $310 a month. 4 lines on my T-Mobile account. Mom, Dad, Ryan, and me. I saw Ryan's 20 gigabyte of data overage from last month. I methodically opened a new tab and signed up for a solo prepaid plan with a different carrier. I filed the request to port my number and my number only. It was approved in minutes. Then I returned to the T-Mobile app. I looked at the 3 remaining lines. I could have just removed the payment and let the bills pile up, but that wasn't clean. This was an uncoupling, not a haunting. I clicked Cancel Plan. A bright red warning appeared. Early termination fee, $750. I laughed. A short, sharp, genuine laugh. Worth it, I whispered. I clicked Confirm. The pin was pulled. The truck was dead on the side of the road. This wasn't just about money. It was about my life. With every click, I felt a chain snap. The weight of their expectations, their judgment, their perfect image, their networking, it all just fell away. This was the sound of my freedom. I was taking my life back. I leaned back in my chair and took the first deep, clear breath I'd taken in 5 years. The air in my apartment tasted different. It tasted like mine. I turned my attention back to the monitor. I opened a new browser tab, a travel website. I searched for cabin, Blue Ridge Mountains, last minute. A small, cozy A-frame with a fireplace popped up. Thursday to Sunday, non-refundable. I entered my own credit card number. I clicked book. My phone rang. The screen lit up with a picture of my father. Dad? I watched it ring, the sound suddenly alien in my quiet apartment. It stopped. A text message appeared. Bella, call me. Your mother's phone just went dead. She's freaking out. I stared at the message. I saw the words freaking out and felt nothing, just a vast, quiet stillness. I took a deep breath. I typed one simple reply. That sounds like a you problem. I hit send. Then, for the first time in my adult life, I held down the power button on my phone and I turned it off. The first tremor hit on Tuesday morning, 2 days before Thanksgiving. I was at home packing a small duffel bag. I didn't have to see it to know how it happened. My mother in the middle of a high-stakes call with the flower delivery service, her phone just going dead. No service. Her face, I imagined, would have gone pale, then puce. Her immaculate coordination, her entire identity as the Harvest Guild hostess, suddenly crippled. She would have blamed T-Mobile, of course. Ryan, in the middle of reassuring his investors, which I knew meant texting his friends to borrow money, would have found his messages failing to send. He wouldn't be annoyed. He would be furious, a toddler's rage. And my dad, David, ever the passive problem solver, would have been dispatched. I pictured him at his work landline navigating the automated menus, finally getting a human at T-Mobile. Sir, that poor representative would have said, that plan wasn't just suspended, it was cancelled yesterday by the primary account holder, Ms. Isabella Moore. The second tremor hit on Wednesday morning, 1 day before. The internet cut out. Just gone. My mother's Thanksgiving ambience Spotify playlist, which she spent weeks curating, would have fallen silent. Ryan's critical presentation for the Thompsons, which I was certain was just a flashy website he'd copied, would be inaccessible on the smart TV. The house would be dead silent, the black mirror of the television reflecting their panicked faces. That's when the panic would turn real. That's when my mother would have shrieked it, her voice echoing in the quiet house. She's doing this. She's doing this to me. She's trying to ruin everything. And then on Wednesday afternoon, the big ones. The ones that didn't just inconvenience but terrified. I pictured my dad at his desk, his work phone ringing. A polite, firm voice from Wells Fargo. Mr. Moore, your mortgage payment for the first was returned. We need to collect $2,800 plus a late fee immediately. My dad sweating, stammering about a mix-up. And at the exact same time, my mother checking the email account I'd set up for her would see it. An automated alert from City Water and Power. Your payment was declined. Your service is scheduled for disconnection on Friday, November 24th. The day after Thanksgiving. The day her significant guests would be enjoying leftovers. The house would go cold. The lights would go out. The facade would crumble to dust. I was at the airport gate B12 waiting to board my flight to Asheville. My phone had been off for 24 blissful silent hours. I sat down, bought a $7 coffee, and turned it on. It was a mistake. It didn't just buzz. It exploded. It was a digital avalanche, a violent, sustained vibration that made the small metal table rattle. 92 missed calls, 41 text messages, and the voicemails a string of red dots. I put in my headphones, my hand perfectly steady, and began to listen. The first was Karen, not my mother. Karen. It wasn't a voice. It was a shriek so loud it distorted the speaker. Isabella, you selfish little bitch! You turn the power back on. You turn it on, right now. The catering is arriving. Elena's parents are flying in. You are ruining this family. You are ruining Ryan's future. I deleted it. Next, a text from Ryan. You think you're so smart. You just cost me $1 million deal. $1 million. You're dead to me, and you're going to pay for this. I'll make sure of it. I deleted it. And finally, my dad. His voice was the worst. It was weak, cracking, begging. Bella, please. I don't know what we did. I don't know what's going on. Please just call me. We can fix this, whatever it is. Your mother is. She's not well, Bella. She's... Please, just call. I deleted it. I took a sip of my coffee. It was scalding, but I didn't flinch. I watched the other passengers line up, families laughing, couples holding hands. My flight was called. I stood, put my phone in my pocket, and got in line. As I walked down the jet bridge, I pulled my phone back out. I opened a new text message to a number I knew by heart. My Uncle Ben, my dad's brother, the black sheep carpenter who always sent me birthday cards with $20. Hey, Uncle Ben! Happy Thanksgiving! Can I call you tomorrow? I need to talk to someone sane. I hit send, switched my phone to airplane mode, and settled into my seat. This was my Thanksgiving. The cabin was small with exposed wooden beams and a gray stone fireplace. Outside, snow was falling in thick, heavy flakes, the kind that swallow all sound. It was the most profound silence I had ever experienced. A real fire crackled in the hearth, and the air smelled like pine and wood smoke. I had a pre-cooked turkey breast from the local grocery store, a bottle of good Pinot Noir, and a new novel I'd been meaning to read for months. I sat on a plush rug, my back against the sofa, a wine glass in one hand. I was completely, totally at peace. And in that quiet, I finally made the call. He picked up on the second ring. Bella Bean, happy Thanksgiving, what's going on? You sound quiet. Uncle Ben, my dad's brother, a no-nonsense carpenter with calloused hands and a laugh that shook the walls. He was the only one who ever saw me. Hey, Uncle Ben, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. I need to talk to someone sane. And so I told him. I told him everything. The 5 years of payments, the condo fund I could never fill, Ryan's steak dinner, the idiot text, the seating chart, and then the finale. The mortgage, the utilities, the phones, the internet, the credit card. I laid it all out piece by piece, expecting him to be shocked. He wasn't. There was a long silence on his end, and then a low, rough sound like gravel. He was furious. Bella, he said, his voice tight, I knew they were users. I told your dad for years he was letting Karen and that kid walk all over him, but this banning you from Thanksgiving after you paid for the goddamn house, that's a whole new level of asshole. Good for you, kid. You did the right thing. You pulled the pin. As I was talking to Ben, the scene I had orchestrated was playing out 50 miles away. I could picture it perfectly. The power by some miracle was still on. But with no internet, no cable, no Wi-Fi, the house would be awkwardly, oppressively silent. No Thanksgiving ambience playlist, no football game droning on the smart TV, just the sound of silverware on plates. My mother Karen would be a wreck. Her face puffy from crying, her smile stretched into a terrifying rictus as she tried to put on a brave face for the Thompsons. My dad David would be in his armchair nursing a large scotch, his face gray. And Ryan would be in the corner furiously texting, having probably driven to a Starbucks to get a prepaid data card, his face a mask of sullen teenage rage. Then the guests. Elena and her significant parents walking into a house that felt cold, tense. The catering, which my mother must have scrambled to pay for on some other card, would be laid out, but the atmosphere would be toxic. And then the meltdown. I could see Ryan trying to impress Elena's father, a venture capitalist. Let me just pull up the business plan, he'd say, grabbing the remote for the black, useless smart TV. He'd click it again and again, blaming the shitty Wi-Fi. I could see Mr. Thompson, a man who built empires, looking at my brother with a flat, assessing pity. Son, he'd say, if you can't even get your internet right, that would be it. The Thompsons would make their polite excuses, leaving hours earlier than planned, the significant alliance dead on arrival. They're not going to take this lying down, Bella. Ben's voice crackled, pulling me back to the cabin. You need to know what's coming. They're going to try to make you the villain, not just to the family, but to the whole neighborhood. Karen's whole life is that harvest guild. She's going to tell them you're a monster. The moment their car was gone, I knew the real explosion would happen. Karen rounding on my dad. You let this happen. You let her destroy us. Ryan screaming, throwing something. She's a sociopath. We should have her arrested. She's a criminal. The perfect family collapsing in on itself. He's already started, Ben said, his voice grim. Your dad. He called me this morning crying. Said you had some kind of breakdown, that you stole all their money and fled. Fled? Can you believe that I told him he was full of it? But he's already spinning the story, Bella. They're going to try and get the whole community to turn on you. You need to get ahead of this. You need your proof. I looked at the fireplace, the flames dancing. My proof. He doesn't know, does he? I said, my voice a whisper. He doesn't know I kept receipts. Ben grunted. Hell no, he doesn't. I stood up, my reflection staring back at me from the dark window. You're right, Uncle Ben. They don't know about the ledger. I'm coming back on Sunday, and I'm bringing it with me. I got back on Sunday afternoon. My small apartment felt different. It felt like mine. The air was still clean. I dropped my duffel bag by the door and saw it. A piece of lined paper taped to my door. Family meeting, 5 p.m. Be there. It was my dad's familiar sloping handwriting. Not a request, a summons. I looked at my watch. 4:30 p.m. I showered, changed into clean jeans and a dark simple sweater, and walked to my desk. I picked up my bag, checked inside to make sure the 4 spiral-bound copies were secure, and walked out. The air outside was cold, but I felt nothing. When I let myself into their house, the first thing I noticed was the chill. They hadn't paid the gas bill. The house was a tomb, the temperature inside almost matching the gray twilight outside. They were all there, sitting in the formal living room, wearing their winter coats. My mother Karen, her face a pale, puffy mask of rage. My father David sunk into his armchair, looking 10 years older. My brother Ryan vibrating with a manic, cornered animal energy. And to my surprise, sitting in a neutral armchair by the window, was Uncle Ben. He just looked at me and gave a single, almost imperceptible nod. My mother started before I even had my coat off. There she is, the criminal, she hissed, her voice hoarse. I hope you're happy, Isabella. I really hope you're proud of yourself. You've ruined us. Completely. Elena left Ryan. Her father is telling everyone in the Harvest Guild, everyone in the community, that Ryan is a fraud. You've destroyed your brother. Ryan shot up from the sofa, his face mottled red. You're going to pay me back, he screamed, pointing a shaking finger at me. Every single cent you cost me. That was $1 million deal. You jealous, sociopathic bitch. $1 million. I'm going to sue you for damages. I'm going to sue you for everything you have. My dad just looked exhausted, his eyes hollow. Bella, he whispered, his voice cracking. Just, please, tell us how to fix this. Turn the accounts back on. We'll figure out the money. Just make it stop, please. Make it stop. I didn't say a word. I just walked past Ryan, unzipped my canvas tote bag, and reached inside. Sometimes the loudest sound in the world, the one that stops all the screaming and crying, is the thud of a 3-ring binder hitting a coffee table. I placed the first one down, then the second, the third, and the fourth. I'm not here to talk, I said, my voice low and steady, cutting through the cold air. I'm here to listen. I'm here to watch you read. I slid the first 40-page spiral-bound copy across the coffee table to my mother. I slid the second one to my father, the third to Ryan. The fourth I placed gently in Uncle Ben's hand. He took it, his face grim. What is this? My mother whispered, her hand hovering over the cover as if it were a snake. It's all in there, I said. By tab. Go on. Open it. I watched them. Watched my mother's shaking hands open to the first page. Tab 1. I narrated, is the mortgage, 60 consecutive payments. You can see the bank transfer confirmations. Total $168,000. My father made a small choking sound. Tab 2, I continued, is utilities, gas, electric, water, $36,000. I turned my gaze to Ryan. Tab 3 is communications, the phone plan you all loved, the high-speed internet for your networking. $25,800. Tab 4 is the emergency credit card. Groceries, gas for your leased Audi, Ryan. Your subscription boxes, your restaurants, your clothes. $41,200. Ryan had gone a sickly shade of green. And finally, tab 5, I said, my voice dropping. We'll call this one Ryan's seed money. Direct e-transfers for rent, for car trouble, for investor meetings like that $450 steak dinner. $52,000. Silence. Utter, deafening, tomb-like silence. The only sound was my father's ragged breathing. My mother's hands were trembling so badly she couldn't turn the page. Ryan looked like he was going to be sick. My dad just stared at the final summary page, his face crumbling as my numbers added up in his head. Grand total. I said, my voice resonating in the cold room, $323,000. I let that hang in the air for a full 10 seconds. And just in case, I said softly, you forgot why. I reached into my bag one last time. I pulled out a single laminated sheet of paper. It was a screenshot of my mother's text. I placed it in the center of the coffee table right between the binders. You're banned from Thanksgiving. You're an idiot. Ryan lunged. It was a raw, guttural scream as he dove across the table, his hands grabbing for the binder to tear it apart. You bitch! You can't show this to anyone! Before his fingers even touched the plastic, Uncle Ben's arm shot out. Ben, a carpenter with 30 years of muscle, grabbed Ryan by the front of his expensive coat and slammed him back into the sofa with a force that rattled the whole room. Sit down, boy. Ben's voice was a low growl. Ryan stared wide-eyed and terrified. Ben didn't even look at him. He turned his hard eyes on my mother and father, both of them frozen in horror. He's right, Ben said, his voice dangerously quiet. You can't let this get out. So, he tapped the binder with a thick finger. What are you going to do to make this right? The silence that followed Uncle Ben's question was heavier than the cold. It was the sound of an entire family structure fracturing, groaning under the weight of decades of lies. My mother was the one who broke it, but her voice was a thin, reedy whisper. You kept receipts, she breathed, staring at the binder as if it had personally betrayed her. What kind of daughter does that? There it was. Not, I can't believe I did this to you, but I can't believe you proved it. The tears welling in her eyes weren't for me. They were for her reputation. They were tears of pure, uncut humiliation. Before I could answer, my father's voice, rough and broken, cut across the room. The kind we made Karen. He didn't look at me. He looked at her, and for the first time in my life, I saw something other than weakness in his eyes. I saw a spark of rage. The kind we forced her to be, he said, his voice gaining a pained strength. He turned his gaze on Ryan, who was still plastered to the sofa. $1 million deal. You haven't had a real job in 5 years, son. You've been living off your sister. Ryan opened his mouth, but nothing came out. My mother just shook her head, muttering, No, no, no. It was my time to talk. I zipped up my empty tote bag, the sound loud in the quiet room. I'm not asking for the money back, I said, my voice clear and final. It's gone. I'm writing it all off as the cost of my education. Consider this, a severance package. I'm done. I looked at each of them, Ryan pale and defeated, Karen weeping for her lost image, and my dad who just looked broken. The house is in your name, Dad. You have a job. You'll have to figure out how to pay for it. All of you. I walked to the door, Ben standing to let me pass. I didn't look back. The next few days were strange. I'd braced myself for the social fallout. And it came just as Ben predicted. My cousin texted me. Heard you had a nervous breakdown. Hope you get help. Stealing from your parents isn't the answer. I saw one of my mother's Harvest Guild friends at the grocery store. She saw me. Her eyes widened and she physically pushed her cart down another aisle. The story was out: Isabella Moore, the ungrateful, unstable daughter. the criminal who stole her family's money and fled. I was the villain. But Uncle Ben had been making calls. He hadn't just sat there. He'd gone to the hardware store. He'd talked to the head of the Harvest Guild, a woman he'd done carpentry work for. He hadn't shown them the ledger, but he'd told them the truth in his simple, honest way. Bella's been paying their mortgage for 5 years, he'd said. They banned her from Thanksgiving. You do the math. On Wednesday, I went to my local coffee shop bracing for the dirty looks. The barista, a young woman I'd nodded to 100 times, handed me my black coffee. "This one's on me," she said quietly, not quite meeting my eye. "My mom's in the guild. We all kinda know what Karen's like. Good for you." I was so stunned, I just nodded and left. That night, a neighbor I barely knew, a woman from 2 doors down, knocked on my door. She was holding a tinfoil-covered lasagna. "You look like you could use a hot meal," she said with a kind, knowing smile. I wasn't an outcast. I was a survivor. This community, the one my mother tried to weaponize, didn't just value the image of success. They valued resilience. They valued the truth. A week later, I walked into the bank. I sat down with a loan officer, my hands folded calmly on her desk. I was applying for a mortgage for my condo. When she ran my credit, she looked up, her eyebrows raised. "Ms. Moore," she said, "your debt-to-income ratio is pristine. Your savings are excellent." With $323,000 of family expenses gone, I was the perfect applicant. I was instantly approved. I spent that Saturday packing my apartment, taping up boxes, the future feeling so clear and bright, it was almost dizzying. I was sorting through old books when I heard a soft knock. I opened the door. It was my dad, David. He was alone, and he looked older, tired, but lighter. He was holding a small white envelope. "Bella," he said, his voice rough. I'm staying with Ben for a while. Karen and we're separating. And Ryan's going to have to get a real job." He held out the envelope. "It's not much," he said, his eyes finally meeting mine, wet with a shame I'd never seen before. "But it's the first payment. I'm going to pay you back." I stared at the white envelope in his hand. My name, Isabella, was written on the front in his sloping, familiar script. I took it. My fingers were steady. Inside, there wasn't a personal check which could bounce or cash, which felt anonymous and desperate. It was a cashier's check. Official, funded, real. The amount was $1,000. It was the most honest money I had ever received from him. It was a single drop in the ocean of debt. I had written off a fraction of the $323,000, but it wasn't about the amount. It was about the act. It was the first payment. "Thanks, Dad," I said. My voice was even. It wasn't forgiveness. The wound was far too deep and wide for that. But it was a foundation. It was the first solid brick placed on bare, empty ground. He gave me a single pained nod, a visible weight seeming to lift from his shoulders, and walked away. 1 year later, Thanksgiving. The camera, if there was one, would pan through a new space, a bright, clean condo on the 12th floor. It wasn't large, but the floor-to-ceiling windows made the city skyline look like my own personal backdrop. It was decorated with my things. A comfortable sofa I'd bought, not a hand-me-down. Bookshelves overflowing with novels. A real solid wood dining table. On my laptop open on the kitchen counter, as I checked a recipe, a spreadsheet was visible. The file wasn't titled Condo Fund anymore. It was titled Housewarming Party. I was hosting. My small home was filled with steam, the smell of roasting turkey and sage, and the sound of loud, genuine laughter. My small table was overflowing, extended by a card table I'd borrowed, the mismatched chairs all full. Uncle Ben, his face ruddy and his voice booming, was at the head, brandishing my carving knife. "This turkey doesn't stand a chance," he bellowed. My dad, David, was there. He looked healthier, the gray, haunted pallor gone. He'd brought his new girlfriend, Sarah, a quiet librarian who seemed kind, normal, and looked at him with gentle, steady eyes. My friends from work, the ones who had covered my shifts and listened to me vent, were clinking wine glasses, and Margaret, the neighbor who had brought me the lasagna, was there showing my dad pictures of her grandkids. It was loud, it was messy, it was chaotic, it was real. While we were clearing the main plates, my dad helped me in the kitchen. He was quiet for a moment, stacking dishes. Heard from Karen? I asked, my voice neutral, scraping scraps into the bin. He shook his head. Not directly. I heard they're in a small apartment over in Westbridge. He paused, then added, Ryan got a job. I stopped, surprised. Oh, yeah, he said, not looking at me, his hands busy with a dish towel. He's a car salesman at the Kia dealership on the boulevard. He's paying his own rent. He said it with a kind of quiet marvel. He's paying his own rent. They don't talk to me. Not a text, not a call, not in a full year. And as I stood there in my own kitchen rinsing a plate, I searched inside myself for the old familiar sting, the anger, the sadness, the sense of betrayal. I found nothing, just quiet, a blank, peaceful, neutral space. The ledger was closed. Later, as everyone held glasses of wine or cider, I tapped a spoon gently against my glass. The chatter died down. Everyone looked at me, their faces warm in the glow of the city lights. I just want to make a toast. I said, my voice clear and strong. I want to toast to infrastructure. Ben chuckled. I smiled. No, the real kind. The kind that isn't built on obligation or guilt, but on love and respect, and actually showing up. The kind that holds you up, not holds you hostage. I looked around the table at these faces, my real foundation. I want to toast to pulling the pins, and finding out what's strong enough, and who is strong enough to stand on their own. To home. They say blood is thicker than water. It's an old saying, one my mother used to quote all the time, usually right before asking for money. But what they don't tell you about that quote is that the full version is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. It means the bonds you choose, the family you make, are stronger than the ones you're just born into. What they also don't tell you is that sometimes the only way to save yourself from drowning in all that thick obligatory blood is to get to shore by yourself and let the tide go out. Isabella had finally closed the ledger, finding her true foundation not in blood, but in the community she chose. Where do you think the line should be drawn between family loyalty and personal freedom? Let us know your thoughts below. We read every single comment. For more stories like this, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening. This has been a story from Revenge Hour. We'll see you next time.